13 struggling patches of land dared to challenge the mightiest empire on the planet. This is the origin story of the American dream, born from necessity, forged in rebellion, and written in history. In the early 1600s, Europe was a tough place. Religious persecution, poverty, and strict social classes left many desperate for a way out. Their ticket out? Tiny, fragile wooden ships braving the brutal, unforgiving Atlantic Ocean. When they finally arrived, the promised land was far from a paradise. Early settlements were complete nightmares. Disease, starvation, and freezing winters wiped out over half of the arrivals. Survival was only possible thanks to fragile alliances with Native American tribes. But these settlers didn't just bring tools across the ocean. They brought a radical idea, the chance to start over, break free from the old world, and build something entirely of their own. Slowly, over decades, that singular idea took root along the eastern coast of North America. In New England, the harsh soil forced settlers to turn to the sea, building ships and trading fish. In the Middle Colonies, diverse groups of Europeans worked together, turning the region into a massive breadbasket. And in the South, the warm climate gave rise to vast plantations, growing valuable cash crops like tobacco and indigo. Despite their extreme differences in climate, culture, and religion, these settlements shared one growing reality. They were becoming incredibly wealthy, transforming into bustling hubs of global trade. And this sudden wealth did not go unnoticed by the looming shadow of the British Crown across the sea. Because they were so far away from London, the colonists had to figure out how to govern themselves. They started writing their own laws and creating local assemblies. Ordinary people, well, mostly landowning men at first, were voting and making decisions. An ocean of distance had accidentally planted the seeds of democracy. Cities like Boston, New York, and Philadelphia grew rapidly, with a booming press and a vibrant culture. New England merchants sailed the world, bringing back immense profits. The Middle Colonies traded grain and livestock, feeding the entire Atlantic network. And the southern plantations exported vast amounts of tobacco, creating a wealthy elite class. All of this success meant one thing: the American colonies were a goldmine. Back in London, the British Empire was watching eagerly. They saw America as nothing more than a source of cheap raw materials and a market for British goods. Through strict trade laws, the Crown ensured that the lion's share of American wealth flowed directly back to Britain. But to protect this valuable empire, Britain fought a massive, expensive war against France on American soil. When the dust settled, Britain had won, but they were deeply in debt. And the king decided that the American colonies were going to pay the bill. The British treasury was nearly empty, and King George III needed cash fast. So, Parliament began passing a series of heavy taxes on everyday items like sugar, paper, and tea. The colonists were absolutely outraged. Many turned to smuggling, silently defying British laws under the cover of night. They didn't just hate the taxes. They hated that they had no voice in the British Parliament. Their rallying cry echoed through the streets: no taxation without representation. Secret societies like the Sons of Liberty formed in the shadows to organize resistance. The protest quickly spread from town to town, uniting the colonies in their shared anger. People simply refused to buy British goods, tearing up tax stamps and boycotting imports. They proudly wore rough, homespun clothes instead of fancy British fabrics. Scene 041. In London, politicians were furious at this colonial defiance. To crush the rebellion, Britain sent thousands of heavily armed redcoats into the heart of Boston. Tensions reached a boiling point on a cold winter night in 1770. A confrontation between angry citizens and nervous soldiers ended in tragedy. 5 colonists were shot dead. The event became known as the Boston Massacre, and it changed everything. Even after the massacre, the British government refused to back down, especially on the tea tax. When British ships loaded with tea arrived in Boston Harbor, the colonists made their move. Under the cover of darkness, a group of men disguised themselves and boarded the ships. They smashed open hundreds of crates and dumped the tea directly into the ocean. The Boston Tea Party was a direct slap in the face to the most powerful empire on earth. King George was furious. He decided it was time to punish Boston once and for all. Britain locked down the harbor, crippling the city's economy. But instead of breaking their spirit, this harsh punishment only united the 13 colonies further. Leaders from across America gathered in Philadelphia for the First Continental Congress. For the first time, these separate regions realized they had to stand together as one. Passionate voices cried out for freedom, declaring that they would rather die than be slaves. Across the countryside, ordinary farmers and shopkeepers began secretly stockpiling weapons. They called themselves Minutemen, ready to fight at a minute's notice. In April 1775, British troops marched out to seize those weapons. And in a flash of gunpowder, the first shot of the American Revolution was fired. The war had officially begun, and there was no turning back. At Lexington and Concord, colonial militias proved they could actually stand up to professional British soldiers. Back in Philadelphia, the Founding Fathers faced the ultimate decision: treason or submission. A young Thomas Jefferson sat by candlelight, drafting a document that would change the world. The Declaration of Independence wasn't just a breakup letter. It was a bold statement of human rights. By signing it, these men were risking their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. When the Declaration was read to the public in July 1776, the crowds erupted in joy. They tore down statues of the king, symbolizing the end of royal rule. But declaring independence was easy. Winning it was another story entirely. The British sent a massive armada, determined to crush the rebellion by sheer force. Under the leadership of George Washington, the ragged American army fought desperately to survive. They endured crushing defeats in freezing, starving winters like the one at Valley Forge. But against all odds, and with crucial help from the French Navy, the tide began to turn. Finally, at Yorktown, the British army surrendered, shocking the entire world. The 13 colonies had done the impossible. They had won their freedom. With the war won, the real challenge began: building a nation from scratch. Over the next centuries, those 13 original colonies would multiply and expand across a vast continent. The small sprout of an idea had grown into an undeniable global powerhouse. Today, the United States is a modern superpower, leading the world in technology, culture, and economy. The institutions built by those early founders still stand, a testament to their enduring vision. But the American story is far from perfect. Today, the nation faces deep internal fractures. Political polarization, social division, and anger often seem to tear the country apart. Just like the Liberty Bell, the modern United States shows visible cracks under the pressure. Yet the core ideals of the Declaration, equality, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, remain. They are a constant reminder of what the country strives to be, even when it falls short. The influence of this bold experiment still radiates across the entire globe, because the true strength of America wasn't born from a king's decree, but from the voices of its people. From a fragile wooden ship in a brutal ocean to a pioneer exploring the stars. The journey of the 13 colonies reminds us that the future is always written by those who dare to challenge the impossible. And that is the enduring, complicated, and ever-evolving reality of the American dream.
Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Gold Era History, and join us for episode 2 as we explore the American Revolution.